Hey everybody, I just wanted to begin the show saying thank you very much for indulging me on my April Fool's joke. I think I got all of you, or at least 99.9% of you. But today I want to tell you the absolutely true story that inspired that joke story about the SM-57. This is totally true, and this will blow your mind. Picture this. It's 1945. World War II just ended. The US and the USSR are supposed to be allies, right? So when a group of Soviet school children hands the American ambassador a beautiful wooden carving of the Great Seal of the United States, it seems like a harmless gift, a token of friendship. But hidden inside that seal was one of the most brilliant spy devices ever made, a microphone with no batteries, no wires, and for 7 years, it listened. You'll want to hear this. Stick around.
You're listening to The Dangerous Mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov. No excuses, no BS, no pants.
Hey, welcome back to the Microphone Playboy, the audio-only companion to the Microphone Assassin, where we love to put voiceover gear on camera. And before we dive deep into this crazy rabbit hole of a story, just a quick announcement. My new book, The Modern Voiceover Career Owner's Manual, comes out on May 15th, 2025. Now, whether you've always been interested in voiceover, already getting your feet wet doing it, or you're a seasoned pro, there is something for you in this book that will give you an edge over your competition. Now, you can pre-order the Modern Voiceover Career Owner's Manual on Amazon. There's a link in the description. Or if it's past May 15th, you can just order it. Take it from a guy who's been doing it for quite a while, but there are a lot of actionable items in this book that will help you up your game. Okay, now let's get to it. And today we're talking about The Thing, the bug that fooled the US for nearly a decade. And if you're a microphone nerd like me, well, you're gonna love how this thing worked. And if you have any doubt that this is real, I will put the Wikipedia link to this story in the show notes. It's such a fascinating history, so check this out. So, first of all, right? How was this thing found? How did they discover that a bug had been sitting in the ambassador's office, on the wall, behind his desk, for 7 years? How did they find this thing? In 1952, a British radio operator was scanning Soviet frequencies when he heard something bizarre. American voices bleeding into the signal. And not just any voices. Conversations from inside the US Embassy in Moscow. So of course, they tore apart the ambassador's office. And when they finally got to that innocent-looking wooden seal, this gift from Soviet school children, there it was, a tiny, passive, resonant cavity microphone hidden inside. No wires, no power supply. Just a hollow little chamber with a thin metal diaphragm. And yet, it had been transmitting secrets for 7 years. So how the heck did this thing work? All right, you ready to geek out on this? This is so cool. All right, so mic enthusiasts, this is where it gets good. The thing wasn't just a bug. It was a piece of radio frequency engineering genius. Here's the breakdown. So, no power, no problem. Most bugs need batteries or a wired connection, but not this one. The Soviets used a concept called passive RF modulation. Now, think of it as like an acoustic mirror. The device itself didn't transmit. It only reflected radio waves, but with a twist. So inside this seal, this wooden seal, was a small cavity, about the size of a cigarette lighter, with a thin metal diaphragm. And when someone spoke in the room, sound waves vibrated that diaphragm, changing the shape of the cavity ever so slightly. But from a building nearby, Soviet spies would beam a high-frequency radio signal around 330 megahertz at the seal. The cavity would then reflect that signal back, but because the diaphragm was vibrating from sound, it modulated the signal like an AM radio wave. So the reflected signal carried the audio, like a laser bouncing off a vibrating mirror. And all the Soviets had to do was capture that reflected signal and demodulate it, and bam! They were listening to every word in the ambassador's office. So why was this undetectable? No electronics, no power, no heat signature. So unless the Soviets were actually beaming a signal at it, it was just a piece of metal and wood. And even the US's best bug-sweeping gear at the time had no idea what to look for. So who invented this spy tech marvel? None other than Léon Theremin. Yes, that Léon Theremin, the guy who invented the theremin, the world's first electronic instrument. That thing you wave your hand around and it sounds like, a 1940s horror movie soundtrack. That thing. So, and then after being forced to work for Soviet intelligence, Léon Theremin designed the thing in total secrecy. And what's wild looking back on it is the legacy of this thing is that it paved the way for RFID, NFC, and even modern wireless sensors. The US was so impressed and freaked out that they reverse engineered it, leading to new counter-surveillance technology. So the next time you see a fancy wooden gift from a foreign government, maybe just give it a tap. And if you're a microphone geek like me, just appreciate the sheer brilliance of a device that turns sound waves into radio reflections with no power required. So you've been listening to me on the Loudon Atlantis going into the MT48, and I have to say that this is probably a better microphone than the one in the Seal. But that's still a crazy story. How they did this thing with no power, no wires, with just a reflective diaphragm. It just makes me wonder if a laser-powered passive resonant cavity microphone would work for voiceover. Hey, I'd try it out. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Let me know if you're mad at me for doing the April Fool's joke. But what I loved about that whole thing, really the coolest thing that came out of it, was if you go through the comments and you see how many people talked about their own personal SM57 stories. I think that is just so cool. I love the fact that people were sharing their experience, their histories going back decades with SM57s. How awesome is that? So yeah, let me know, leave a comment. You've been listening to the Microphone Playboy. And don't forget to check out my latest book on Amazon, The Modern Voiceover Career Owner's Manual. All right, you know what to do. Until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.